It's been a very, 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 very long time. Very, very, very long time.
You know what they say, get back on the saddle.
You know what?
She just buried it emotionally because to deal with it. But
You won't believe the tea we're spilling today. From secret breakups to shocking lies, this is unreal tea. Hit subscribe before the drama starts. Welcome everyone, this is the day the Sister Wives world stopped pretending. For years, viewers believed they'd seen it all, the love, the fights, the catfish scandal, the marriages crumbling one by one. But what you're about to hear was never meant for the cameras. It's a courtroom battle that dispels all delusions of family cohesion, with Meri Brown, the wife once unobtrusively lingering on the periphery of polygamy, now equipped with stacks of documents. And a tongue sharper than the loudest gavel blow. This is not reality television anymore. This is actual, land titles, bank transfers, signed agreements, broken commitments, and the instant Meri turns to the man who had established an empire. From her devotion and informs him. That was a lie. Something that occurred within that courthouse not only stunned Kody Brown into silence, but also reverberated through every aspect of the Sister Wives universe. Because behind those courthouse doors, a secret about Coyote Pass, that 12-acre promise of a shared future, was finally brought to light. And if you think you know who really owns that land, think again. In the next 10 minutes, you'll hear the opening statement that left the judge frozen, see the documents Kody fought to keep sealed, and uncover the deal that was supposed to guarantee every wife a piece of Coyote Pass, but somehow left Meri with nothing. We'll lay bare the timeline, from the 2014 legal divorce, to Robyn adopting Kody's children, to the day Meri discovered her name was left off the deed. And before it's done, we'll reveal why this case is not just about Arizona dirt, it's about 3 decades of unpaid work, reality show manipulation, and a man rewriting family history to fit his own purposes. Sound in the courtroom was different that day. It wasn't quiet, it was charged. Each cough, each rustle of papers seemed to be a gun cocking. Meri Brown stood up. Her heels clicked across the polished floor, echoing louder than it should have. Not because it was loud, but because everyone in that room was holding their breath. Imagine it. The reality TV constructed as the quiet one, the always behind-the-scenes one as larger personalities commandeered the attention, now marching purposefully toward the stand, her gaze fixed on a man to whom she'd once entrusted her whole life. She was dressed in a dark blue blazer, bold, intentional, her blonde hair drawn back into a no-nonsense knot. In hand, a fat folder. Not a prop. Not merely papers. Evidence. Her eyes did not waver as she walked past Robyn, sitting next to Kody. They did not stumble when she met the eyes of the man who had sworn to provide her with spiritual parity. She arrived at the microphone, lowered it a bit, and then, silence. Your Honor, she started. Her tone was firm, but wavered at the edges, not through fear, but 3 decades accumulation of anger and heartache struggling to find release. I stand before you today to reclaim that which was due to me. Not just as a wife, but as a woman. As a mother, as a human being. I desire that which is mine. And I'm not going away. Gasps ran through the gallery. And just like that, the game had changed. This wasn't Meri seeking reconciliation. This was Meri calling out Kody in the one place his charm and control were useless, in a court of law. Meri's words hung suspended in the air like smoke that would not clear. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair pulled back into a bun, nodded slowly. Her eyes, however serene, swept Meri with the sort of interest that informed every person in the room. This was not going to be brushed aside. Meri had waited 30 years for this moment. 30 years of devotion, of contorting herself into the shape Kody desired. And now, at last, she had the floor. What she didn't possess was time. Because the defense was about to cut her off at the knees. Meri pulled out the first paper from her file. It was frayed at the edges, like she had been carrying it for months, possibly even slept next to it within handy grasp. This, she held aloft so the judge could glance at it, is an August 14, 2018 payment statement. A deposit of my business account into the family trust. This trust was established to pay for the Coyote Pass property. She hesitated. And yet, my name was never on the deed. There was a murmur of dismay in the gallery. Meri pulled a second page. This is an email from our real estate agent, expressing my interest in investing. She drew one final page. From the folder, her fingers almost clenching as if to hurt her to even handle it. And this is a copy of the show contract we all signed. It says, in plain words, that revenue from filming would fund our family future together, namely, constructing homes on Coyote Pass. The judge sat forward. Kody crossed his arms, so tightly that his knuckles were white. Robyn looked at the ground. This was the moment Kody feared. Not so much because Meri had evidence, but because each page of that folder was a reminder that his own words, his own vows, had been on paper, and now, they were evidence. Meri's voice cut. When Kody and I got divorced in 2014 so he could marry Robyn legally and adopt her kids, I did so in the hopes that spiritual equality would still be. That our contracts, emotional, monetary, and ethical, would be respected. That was a deception. Kody's jaw clenched. Robyn shifted once more, her hands furling in her lap. I lived 30 years in this family. I raised a kid. I helped build the very show that brought this land into being. And now, I've been quietly, deliberately, told I'm not deserving of 1 square inch. Meri clutched the stand. I gave up my legal marriage. I gave up my voice. But I am not going to give any more. At her back, Janelle leaned forward, gaze fixed on Meri with an unsaid me too. The Coyote Pass dream. In order to get the gravity of this moment, you need to go back. Back to 2018, when Coyote Pass was merely a dream. Kody's dream. He drew it as a painting in his wives' minds, for custom homes on 12 acres in Flagstaff, Arizona. Equal shares. Equal say. Equal future. It sounded equitable. Close-up of Kody, grinning for TLC cameras, arms outstretched, talking of building something for the family's legacy. But something the cameras didn't capture: financing, transfers, legal documentation. Because while Kody was discussing equality, the actions spoke otherwise. In court again, Meri replied to the judge's question, "Yes, Your Honor. The property was always intended to be divided 4 ways between the wives. That was the bargain: verbal, emotional, financial, and in writing." Judge, and when did you find out your name wasn't on the deed? Meri, not until the end of 2023, when Janelle and I started comparing papers. Judge, and then what did you do? Meri, I talked to Kody. He told me he worked harder, so he needed more. But we didn't have it based on who earned more. We had it based on sharing the land evenly because we were a family. The bailiff handed an evidence folder to the clerk. Kody's lawyer, a tall fellow with an impeccably pressed navy suit and a face that looked as if he'd been chiseled out of marble, stood up. Objection, Your Honor. This evidence is too emotional and irrelevant to the property's legal ownership. Mrs. Brown was involved spiritually, not financially. Meri emitted a low, nearly silent laugh. Her lawyer, a keen-eyed woman in a tan suit, stood up right behind her. Excuse me, the Brown family's financial system was a blur-harder kind of thing, on purpose by Mr. Brown. Everything coming in, from TLC, from separate businesses, or joint ventures, was going into communally held accounts. Mrs. Brown wasn't just a spiritual wife. She was an unpaid co-owner in a multi-decade business. And that business paid for Coyote Pass. The judge's eyebrow raised. Kody's lawyer sat, his jaw clenching. The divorce, in 2014, Meri did something that few observers in the world of sister wives anticipated. She divorced Kody. Not because she was leaving, but so Kody could marry Robyn legally and adopt her children. The sacrifice was spun as love, loyalty, family. But what it actually was leverage. And Kody held on to it. We get glimpses of Kody grinning after the adoption. Meri smiling with courtesy by his side. She relinquished legal status in the marriage. And with it, the type of rights that might have kept her safe now. In the courtroom again, Meri's attorney moved to enter the documents into evidence. Kody sat still. But a foot tapped beneath the table. Robyn gazed at the floor. In that room, the dynamics had changed. Meri wasn't merely a wife complaining. She was a plaintiff with bank statements. And each page unraveled another strand from the portrait Kody had painted over decades. Janelle takes the stand. The judge nodded toward the gallery. Mrs. Janelle Brown, please take the stand. Janelle stood up slowly, the lines of years etched on her shoulders, not merely the years of marriage, but of being put aside, overridden, and now, betrayed. Janelle was not only a witness. She was a co-designer of the Coyote Pass dream. She invested her own savings, her business profits, and her trust in the venture. But as she approached the stand, the reality had sunk in. Her investment, like Meri's, had been wiped out on paper. Janelle adjusted the microphone, her tone steady, but touched with quiet steel. Your Honor, I am not here today for myself, but for fairness. For transparency. When Coyote Pass was bought, I was assured, in person by Kody, that all 4 wives would have equal shares. 4 wives, 4 parcels, 4 futures. That was the bargain. The judge leaned forward. And you financially contributed to this property? Yes. Out of my business account and out of TLC earnings. Every single deposit was made in good faith, believing I was securing the future of my family. But when I and Meri matched records, we found ourselves missing. Not forgotten. Left out. Janelle's voice had grown hard. I talked to Kody. He said to me, and I'm quoting here, I've done more for this family than either of you, so I get more. That wasn't the bargain we made. That wasn't the family we vowed to each other. Janelle's breaking point, Coyote Pass, wasn't dirt to Janelle. It was the one thing that bound her to the plural marriage even when the love had expired. She'd waited years in financial hardship, splitting her own work with shooting for TLC, thinking every dollar was contributing to that dream. But then the paperwork appeared, and she discovered the dream was not hers to keep. It was Kody's and Robyn's. In court once more, Kody's lawyer rose. Mrs. Brown, can you show that your investment was earmarked to Coyote Pass? Janelle didn't flinch. Yes. I have bank records and signed contracts from the family trust that identify land purchase. Those have been filed with the court. The attorney probed. But it's in Mr. Brown's name, right? Right. Because he ensured that it was. The gallery murmured. Kody's face turned a deep red. Kody takes the stand, the judge asked the next witness. Mr. Kody Brown, come on up. Kody proceeded slowly, his signature confidence replaced by a stiffness that seemed almost practiced. He adjusted his tie, something that fans had seldom seen him do, and sat down. The bailiff administered his oath. This was the moment fans had waited for. For years, Kody's account had not been questioned, in confessionals, on podcasts, in scripted TLC productions. But here, before a judge, the spin wouldn't hold. Meri's lawyer approached. Is it true, Mr. Brown, that all 4 wives made financial contributions towards the acquisition of Coyote Pass? Kody relaxed in his chair. They made contributions. To the family. I did most of the actual work to acquire the property. Please answer the question directly, Mr. Brown. Did all 4 wives contribute financially, yes or no? A pause. Yes. And was there an agreement to divide the land equally among the wives? We talked about it. But there was no legal agreement. The attorney paced slowly. But there was a verbal agreement, right? Perhaps. But things change. That line, things change, hit like a slap. Because to Meri and Janelle, the only thing that had changed was Kody's loyalty, and his paperwork. The attorney probed once more. Mr. Brown, did you know that the names of Meri and Janelle were never put on the deed? Yes. And you didn't see fit to tell them? It wasn't necessary. The lawyer paused, allowing the quiet to linger. Not necessary. To inform 2 women who invested their own funds that they no longer had legal rights to the property they were promised? Kody shifted uncomfortably. They enjoyed the property when we were still a family. The judge's brow furrowed. Mr. Brown, the court doesn't care if they benefited. What we care about is ownership. Kody gritted his teeth, glancing quickly at Robyn, who sat in stone silence, her hands grasped tightly in her lap. The divide over the years in the lead up to today, the Brown family had broken apart with the cameras bearing witness. Christine's exit. Janelle's quiet retreat. Meri's seclusion. And all along, Kody's story was that the wives had abandoned him. But today, under oath, the paper trail revealed another story, that he had abandoned them long before they left. Cross-examination. Meri's attorney leaned in. Mr. Brown, did you take TLC income derived from all 4 wives, to fund Coyote Pass? Yes, but, thank you. No further questions. The defense attorney cut in for redirect. Mr. Brown, isn't it correct that you bore most of the planning, negotiating, and vision for Coyote Pass? Yes. It was my idea. My work. And without your work, the property wouldn't exist, right? Right. The lawyer addressed the judge. Which is why it's only right he gets to keep majority ownership. And there it was, the defense's whole case came down to this, that vision was more valuable than decades of collective toil. That the man who envisioned it should own it completely. But dreams don't stand up in court like deeds do. The rebuttal. The judge glared at Meri's lawyer. Do you want to cross-examine some more? Her tan-clad attorney stood up slowly, her face inscrutable, the sort of expression that indicated she had something up her back pocket. This was the point where most attorneys would rest their case. But not Meri's. She wasn't here to endure this trial, she was here to win it. The lawyer strode to the middle of the room, her heels clicking out in rhythm like a metronome. Your Honor, in conclusion, I'd like to say something Mr. Brown just mentioned, that Coyote Pass exists due to his vision. That but for him, there would be no property. That is a contention we deny. She swiveled to the gallery. Actually, we have a witness who can testify firsthand to the source of the purchase, and who supplied the funding. The surprise witness. The bailiff opened the side door. A tall man in a well-tailored gray suit entered, holding a substantial leather folder. He was announced, Daniel Harris, the family's former real estate broker. Kody's face went white. For years, this man had been nothing but a signature on closing documents. But now, he was going to testify under oath. And his statement could tear Kody's account of things apart. Harris was sworn in and sat down. Meri's lawyer moved forward. Mr. Harris, can you inform the court what your position in the purchase of Coyote Pass was? Yes. I was the broker who facilitated the sale in 2018. I negotiated with the family trust and worked with all 4 wives on their interests in the property. All 4 wives? Yes. Each was introduced as an equal co-owner. In initial negotiations. The gallery buzzed. Kody's attorney jumped up at once. Your Honor, unless there is paperwork, the witness raised his folder. There is paperwork. Emails, signed meeting minutes, and an initial draft of the deed identifying all 4 wives as owners. That file was a bomb. Because if what Harris alleged was correct, then between the first draft and the final filing, Meri and Janelle's names were stricken. And somebody had to sign off on it. Meri's lawyer persisted. Mr. Harris, in your experience, is it typical to make a change on a deed from draft to filing? Not unless the client directs. In this instance, that client was Mr. Brown. Kody fidgeted. That's not accurate, the judge interrupted with a sharp tone. Mr. Brown, you will have your say. The smoking gun. Harris opened his folder and produced a printed email. This is a letter from Mr. Brown to me, dated September 2018, telling me to complete the deed with only his name as the owner, and to avoid unnecessary confusion by removing Meri and Janelle. Gasps filled the room. Meri and Janelle shared a glance, not of shock, but of vindication. This was the point where the entire room could sense it. Kody's defense was no longer one of vision or effort. It was one of control. And the paper trail was catching up to him. Kody's damage control. Kody's attorney stood up for cross-examination. Mr. Harris, might you have misinterpreted Mr. Brown's intent? No. The directive was clear, and I complied. Might it have been a short-term solution? Not with a recorded deed. Once it's filed, it's permanent unless there's an alteration made legally. The defense attorney clenched his jaw, sensing the tide of momentum shifting. No additional questions. Closing moments in court. The judge relaxed back in her chair, pen tapping against a legal pad. Due to the complexity of testimony and new evidence put forward, I will require more time to consider before delivering a judgment. Meri's lawyer began to say something, but the judge held up a hand. This court will be reconvening in 2 weeks' time. All papers related to the Coyote Pass property are to be kept intact and sealed from tampering during this period. Any form of tampering will be contempt. And like that, the room deflated. No verdict. Not yet. But truth had crept into the open. Kody had been caught faking the dream he'd sold to his wives, and the only man who could do anything about it had set it down on paper. The aftermath. Outside, as the courthouse cleared, reporters mobbed the steps. Microphones were pushed forward. Meri hesitated, her folder held tightly to her breast. I didn't come here to ruin anyone. I came here to take back what I worked for. Janelle moved. Beside her. We're not giving up. Not now. Not ever. Through a side door, Kody escaped, Robyn on his heels. Neither said a word. Neither cracked a smile. The war for Coyote Pass was not finished. But within 2 weeks' time, the gavel would come down. And either Meri and Janelle would be taking back their share of the property. Or Kody would be walking away with it all. The one thing that's for sure is the Sister Wives universe will never look at him the same. Media analysis segment starts. Cut to split screen, one half featuring grainy courtroom drawings, the other featuring a panel of commentators on a well-lit studio set. As the fight in the courtroom continued, the rest of the world was burning. With its own tempest. Social media feeds were inundating. Twitter hashtags such as hashtag Coyote Pass Conspiracy and hashtag Justice for Janelle were trending for hours. In one viral clip, a longtime fan of Sister Wives stared into her phone camera and said, "We've watched this family for over a decade. We've seen fights, tears, even divorces. But this? This feels criminal." The network's own fan forums lit up with frame-by-frame breakdowns of courtroom footage. Every eyebrow raised from Kody, every deep sigh from Janelle, became a point of debate. Cut to legal expert. A serious-looking legal commentator, retired prosecutor Elaine Simmons, sits in front of a set of law books. Elaine Simmons, legal analyst. From a strictly legal standpoint, this case is interesting because it's not about money, it's about trust, long-term verbal commitments, and the optics of reality TV life spilling into a court of law. The most dramatic moment for me was when Janelle's lawyer introduced the unfiled land contracts. That potentially could sink any argument Kody could make for ownership and show if Robyn did gain an unfair advantage. Narrator, over B-roll of courthouse steps crowded with reporters by noon, news vans from all major outlets, TMZ, Entertainment Tonight, People Magazine, had parked outside the courthouse. Cameras lingered, salivating over any hint of a settlement or public breakdown. One amateur TikTok spliced together clips from past Sister Wives episodes, captioning them with today's courtroom bombshells. The caption stated, "The receipts were there all along, we just didn't see them." Marcus Delgado, civil litigation specialist, if the surprise witness testimony stands up, we might see a domino effect, not only with property rights, but with the way reality TV contracts are drafted moving forward. Networks might begin shielding themselves from family-driven lawsuits such as this one. And yet, while the country argued about land deeds and betrayal, rumors began circulating of one last piece of evidence, something contained in a brown envelope, said to have the ability to end the trial in one blow. Courtroom, afternoon session. The gallery buzzes like a murmur. The judge bangs the gavel twice, but the hum doesn't completely subside. Janelle remains stiff in her seat, gaze fixed on one thing on the evidence table, a worn, brown, thick envelope with "confidential" printed on it in red letters. The envelope was there for hours. Untouched. Unopened. A looming threat. Both sides had tiptoed around it all that morning, but now, there was no getting away from it. "Judge, counsel, come forward." The lawyers move forward. A whispered conversation. Kody glances over at Robyn, lips clenched, knuckles locked against the edge of the table. Robyn's gaze flicks over the envelope, away from it, as though gazing at it too long would scald her. And then, the verdict is rendered. The envelope must be opened, with the court looking on. Commentary intercut TV host, morning segment. That instant the judge insisted on the seal being broken? That's when I realized that this was no longer family soap opera anymore, this was going to turn the whole thing around. Back to courtroom. The bailiff cuts the seal through. Documents glide out, photocopies, scribbled notes, ministerial looking. Signatures. What had spilled across the table wasn't ink on paper. It was time itself, the past, locked away in the language of law. Prosecutor, Your Honor. Exhibit 49. A 2015 signed agreement. It clearly reflects the payment of funds from the family trust straight into an account held only in Robyn Brown's name. Gasps spread through the courtroom. Janelle's lawyer turns to another page. Prosecutor, and here, letters between Mr. Brown and the Coyote Pass developers, assuring the wives that all four of them would still have equal interest in the property. The sketch artist's camera captures Kody's look, the very moment his jaw clenches into stone. Commentary intercut. Elaine Simmons, legal analyst. That's the smoking gun. The signature, the date, the trail of transfer, it ties it all together. The prosecution's been alluding to for days. And the fact that Robyn's name is the only one on the list, that's going to linger in the minds of the jury. But the documents contained more than real estate transactions. Buried between them, a personal letter, creased twice. A letter written by Kody. The prosecutor reads. Prosecutor, reading, if the others ever catch on to what we settled on, it's over. This country was always intended to be ours, Robyn, the rest will catch up in time. The gallery erupts into whispers. Christine, sitting in the back row, puts her hand over her mouth. Meri shakes her head, eyes closed. In one envelope, years of suspicion hardened into evidence. And outside of those courtroom doors, the internet was already ablaze. Courtroom, late afternoon. The 4:17 p.m. clock hangs on the opposite wall. The air is denser now, as if even oxygen is holding its breath in anticipation of the judge's words. 3 weeks of testimony. Dozens of exhibits. Hours of cross-examination that reduced reputations to rubble. And now, it all converges into these last few minutes. The jury enters, their faces inscrutable. Some of them won't meet our eyes. One holds the verdict form in her hand as if it were a hot wire. Judge, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a unanimous verdict? Foreperson, we have, Your Honor. Commentary intercut, news anchor, live broadcast anchor, we're seeing live right now as the verdict is finally going to be read in the case of Janelle Brown versus Kody Brown. For viewers just joining us, the sealed evidence reveal earlier this afternoon was explosive. Legal experts are already hailing it as one of the most pivotal moments in the history of reality TV. Back to courtroom. Janelle sits tall, her lawyer's hand resting gently on her forearm. Kody's shoulders are tense, jaw clenched, eyes staring directly in front. Robyn leans forward over the seat, lips pursed into a thin line. Narrator, each blink is an explosion in the quiet. Each breath is pilfered. And then, the paper is unfolded. Foreperson, in the matter of financial misconduct, we, the jury, find the defendant. The word sticks in their throat. A silence so profound, you could actually hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights. Commentary intercut, Legal Analyst Panelist 1, this is the moment of truth. If Kody is held liable, it could set the door open to criminal charges in the future. Panelist 2, and if he's acquitted? The backlash in the court of public opinion could be worse. Back to courtroom, slow motion narration, the lips of the foreperson move. The audio appears to lag behind. Each and every eye in the room, from the lawyers to the bailiff to the back pew of the gallery, fixates on that one word that will determine the destiny of a family, a fortune, and a legacy forged on TV screens. The camera blinks. The judge leans forward. Janelle's fist clenches. Foreperson, guilty. The room erupts. Gasp, stifled sobs, the hasty scuffle of feet as reporters move to the doors to send out breaking news. Kody bangs his hand on the table, muttering something tart to his attorney. Janelle breathes out, not with happiness, but with a sort of exhausted relief. Commentary intercut, fan reaction montage, fan on TikTok, I knew it. He played all of them, and now it's finally catching up. Twitter post trending, hashtag justice for Janelle, 2. 4M posts in less than an hour. Podcast host, this judgment? It's not about money, it's about trust, betrayal, and the end of an era. But when the gavel falls one last time, one question remains in the air, what then? This family's drama is far from over, so smash like if you're hashtag Team Wives, subscribe for the next explosive update, and drop a comment below. Who do you think will win? Stay shady, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next scandal. Kiss mark. Behind TLC Sister Wives out.